We are just 3.5 days away from the beginning of December, so that means we're going to be going over a major top-down analysis of all of the headline statistics for the month of December. That's being the average probability to see a positive closing in December, what the average win returns, what the average loss returns look like, even the average low of the month, and of course the differential between the open and low of the month, which I think a lot of people are very interested in. We saw this play out really, really well with the November statistics for the month of November. I mean, I guess things could change because we still got 3.5 days left, but assuming things don't deviate that much, then yeah, that was certainly within the context of the data. Now, on top of that, I do want to acknowledge that we are going to be going over the lower term timeframes as well, just to kind of buffer up on that, because we did see that the HPDR target, the bounce target, has been hit. So essentially, what next there? And then, of course, happy Thanksgiving to all the celebrators out there in the world, and obviously the non-celebrators. Well, fuck you. No, kidding, obviously. But of course, we are going to be having a Black Friday sale going on with the code BLACKED in all capitals, and then the numbers 2 and 0. So BLACKED20 literally applies to anything in the teachable link in the description below, even the new long-term investor tool, even the new Crown Trading Bible, and of course, everything else and in between. Other than that, we can go over the monthly statistics first, and then we'll go into the lower term time frame stuff. And I do want to address that this current rally, I do think it's kind of like a bittersweet rally, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Anyways, as far as December statistics go, I've, as always, gone through all of the past Decembers in Bitcoin's history and documented the major statistics accompanying them. And if we go over to this window right here, we can see that December is actually a lot closer to a coin flip probability as whether it's likely to close positive or negatively, with just around 53.33333, repeating, of course, percent of all December's closing positively, which would be 8 out of 15 prior, and the returns for both winning and losing Decembers are actually quite large. I would say they're a little bit larger than what we generally look at for other months. On the positive side, when December has been a positive closing month, there has been witnessed a almost 31.5% return from open to close. And on the other side, on the losing side, the average loss return has been just over 13%. So if we put that into context of current price action, so I'm going to assume Bitcoin closes at November somewhere around where it's at right now. If we are going to hopefully see a positive closing December, which I kind of have my doubts, but hey, it would be nice. Like it's a nice thing to wish for, I guess. 30-ish% to the upside would put Bitcoin back at around 118, 120-ish region. I'd be very happy with that. Hey, look, I wouldn't be complaining personally, obviously. But if we go to the other side, the negative side, then, shaving off about 13% from this current price action, to put a number on it would put Bitcoin somewhere down around $80,000 again. So retesting that low that we saw in November. I actually have really good reason to believe that we will see that low retested at some point in December, but that does not mean that Bitcoin's necessarily going to be closing December negatively. And again, we don't necessarily have the close of November, so these numbers are definitely, possible to change. But as we'll go over later, I do believe that, yeah, $80,000 or around 80, at least like 83, probably gets tested again for Bitcoin, but there is a very high probability of another bounce emerging from that region again. So do be aware of that. And as we go through the data here, I want to now go into the average lows that we've seen for December. So what date do we typically expect the low of December to come in? December is a very interesting month because both the positive and negative closing Decembers see the low of the month like relatively early within the month, at least compared to other months' data. If we just conglomerate the whole, if we just include all of the data for December, like not even bifurcating between positive or negative closures, the average date of the low of the month is actually the 10th, and actually might be a little bit less than that. It is that is indeed correct. The 4th, or sorry, not the 4th, but the 10th, about the 10th of the month. So day number 10, you should be kind of thinking, okay, whatever low we've already seen in December, probably going to be it. That also does imply that, if I am going to be looking for another swipe around or somewhere close to the November lows, probably happens early within the month. So this kind of helps, get a mental model for what a plan would likely look like for December. Now, if we do bifurcate this data between positive and negative closing Decembers, well, the positive side would be right here. It's super early within the month, super early. Again, even compared to other months at under 4 days on average. In fact, the latest day we've ever seen the low of the month with a positive closing December was in 2020, which was the 9th. So just after the first week. So I would go as far to say that, hey, if you don't see Bitcoin making new lows, after the first week, that's probably a good sign in and of itself, because that is a very low number. That is a super, super low number. On the other side, for negative closing Decembers, we have seen the low of the month come in compared to other months relatively early. This one coming in on average on day number 14, which is by and far away much different. Or sorry, actually, I do have this one included double. Okay, that changes things significantly. All right, I'm glad that I just noticed that right there. Don't know how that one got through, but sometimes when oh, no, that is correct. It's actually not included in the positive, which the positive stays the same, or about the same, and yeah, the negative actually stays the same because that was a negative month. Yeah, so we do have that. Yeah, negative. Okay, beautiful. Anyways, yeah, so we actually still do have that for day number 14. So around week number 2 of December, you know, if you are looking for a negative close in December, I mean, that's kind of about the time where I'd say, hey, the low of the month is probably about in. I wouldn't be expecting like, you know, so much more downside from here. And I want to get too greedy with that. And again, on the positive closing side, you know, this data pretty much the same here at 3.8. So under 4 days. So under a week, you know, basically half of a week, which is relatively short. Anyways, that begs the question then, if we're expecting the low of the month relatively early within this month, what would we expect for the low of the month? Like the low in terms of a percentage differential between the open of the month and the low of the month, because this data has also been super valuable since we started going over it. It doesn't always play out exactly. Obviously, these are averages. Naturally, it's not going to work like that, but we have seen this be a really good guidance in the past. And for positive closing, not November's, but December's, the average differential for positive closing December's between the open and the low of the month has been about 5.5%. So I'm going to take some liberties again here and assume that Bitcoin closes the month of November out somewhere around here. And if we are going to assume that, you know, December is going to be positive, then 5.5% to the downside puts Bitcoin, you know, a little bit below that yellow 21 EMA on the monthly, and that would be about $85,500. So that is, in my opinion, of interest right there. For negative closing December's, however, the average differential between the open and the low of the month is relatively small. So even if we are going to be witnessing some downside in December, compared to other months, you know, it really hasn't been that bad in Bitcoin terms. Now, in traditional market terms, obviously, this is a fucking catastrophe. You know, more than 10% down. It's all that's completely awful. But for Bitcoin, you know, that's a fucking Tuesday basically. So it is. This is the game that you play if you sign up to play this fucking game. Hey, I didn't. I'm just reading the fucking tea leaves right now. That's all. But yeah, 12.5%. So you know, if we do put that into context around current price action, I'm going to assume like somewhere around $90,000 is the closure. What was it, 12%? Yeah, 12% puts you a little bit lower than the November low at about $79,000. I think that somewhere in that range is very, very likely, between about 83, what was it, like 85 to 79, somewhere like that, but really early within the month, let's say, you know, very likely before the end of the second week, something like that. So I would be aware of that. Anyways, going forwards from there, I do want to, again, just acknowledge that, you know, this data is based off of averages. So there's going to be some variance within these. It's not going to be exact. It just gives us some, you know, some guidelines, some reference points to be interpreting current price action from. It's not intended to say, hey, it's going exactly here. I think that this is a point that is massively misheard. Probably shouldn't even really be speaking to these people, because probably shouldn't be on a channel like this, obviously, if we go over, you know, mainly statistics. But for the people who do understand, yeah, just look at that zone as kind of a zone that is likely early within the month. And if Bitcoin does get there, you're probably at least due for a bounce. And I actually don't think that Bitcoin's going to really have any sort of major breakdown below there. In probably most of December. If it's going to happen, I think it would be very late December or maybe early January. But I do want to acknowledge here, again, with 3.5 days left to close for the month of December, the blacked coupon. No, the monthly MACD. We are very likely going to see the monthly MACD cross the downside for the first time since this cycle began in 2023, and this will absolutely happen according to Caretaker's reverse MACD indicator right here. If Bitcoin finishes this month of November out below $97,500. Now, is it impossible for Bitcoin to rally about $6,000 or $6,500 between now and the next 3.5 days? Not impossible. Bitcoin's, you know, done crazy crazier things, I guess. But as of right now, you know, it ain't looking too hot. So if Bitcoin, or if we do see that MACD cross the downside, well, what have we seen in the past from this? Well, when we go to the monthly here, I have marked off all of the prior times where we've seen the monthly MACD cross the downside with these green vertical bars. And this has been, let me actually go to the log scale right here. This has been your bull trap of 2014. This has been your sort of lull into a small bull trap in 2018, a bit of a bull trap actually going into the Rona dump over here, like a couple months before, which is actually super interesting. Like, you wouldn't have expected it to get to that. And then, of course, most recently in the bull trap, or preceding the bull trap actually, of 2021 and 2022. And then, yeah, we're getting it right here. So that does, assuming that this does cross the downside, personally, I do have to be looking at whatever bounce that we get from this low $80,000 number for Bitcoin as likely to be a lower high. Is it going to work out exactly like that? I mean, you know, we don't have a whole hell of a lot of data here. It's happened 4 prior times, but I would definitely look at this as a signal that, you know, deserves at least some recognition from me. You can decide to do whatever the fuck you want to do, of course. And I will address a little bit later that for my long-term holds, yeah, I've bought some, but that's for, you know, that's going to be held for 10 plus years. This is also going to be accompanied by monthly MACD bearish divergence, which, you know, not fucking good. But yeah, just to address that, you know, that prior claim, given my LTI settings right here, which are, again, primarily to buy major pullbacks for very long-term investments, I actually have gotten some buy signals on this current pullback. You know, it has been a pretty significant pullback. It's been a 35% pullback, so I would hope that I get some fucking buy signals there. You know, I don't expect these to be immediately profitable, although, you know, throughout this whole cycle, all of these more or less have been, to be fair. But I will be holding these for many years to come. So again, the LTI is actually on sale for 20% off with that code BLACKED20, and I actually do give out my settings for my sort of more active dip buyer, which is this program right here, and then also my macro buyer, which is just macro lows, and then I even do go over some traditional markets as well. You know, you can view that on Teachable. It'll be all there laid out for you. And you can even set up alerts for it as well, because I'm personally, you know, slowly moving into being more of a long-term macro investor, and so this is kind of the sort of you know, ideology I want to be adopting personally. Anyways, we've gone through pretty much all of the long-term stuff right there. And also I do want to acknowledge that on all of the major pullbacks throughout this cycle, we have gotten these signals. So, you know, if you are a bull and you do think Bitcoin is not done putting in new all-time highs for this cycle, then these signals are as good as any for, you know, we're probably at the low, and it should be more or less straight up from, or maybe not straight up, but like sideways and up from here. That's a valid position. I think it's also a very valid position to think that this cycle is over. You know, we have gotten several signals that are consistent with the end of cycles. I think that if you're coming at it from that sort of an ideology and you have that sort of planning, these are valid positions to be taking. You know, just make sure that you actually have a fucking strategy, not just borrowing conviction from some moron on YouTube like me or anyone else for that matter, really. Got to make your own decision at the end of the day. I'm just sharing my own decision-making process, which may or may not be helpful to you if you know, have similar sort of preferences. Anyways, moving from there, I do want to get into more short-term time frame analysis. I do want to, oh, there it is, the blacked coupon, blacked in all capitals and 20. Anyways, Thursday, which is today, which is Thanksgiving, and hope that you're eating your fucking face off right now. Really, gonna be storing up some massive dumps for me tomorrow. But Thursday is actually the most likely day to dump. Why is that? Because it's Thanksgiving? No, well, maybe actually, but I do remember in the past there's been some pretty nasty Thanksgivings. But yeah, Thursday is the most likely day to close negatively out of any day of the week since this bull market began in 2023, with over 56.5% of all Thursdays closing negatively. As always, we're most interested in the average gain and the average loss for positive or negative closing Thursdays. Now, on the positive side, we've actually already seen the average gain pretty much hit. You did see a wick up close to that region at about $92,000. Bitcoin has backed off from that number as of right now, and I would consider that actually that scalpable trade that you typically witness on a day-to-day basis. So if you did take that, congratulations, you know, money in our pocket right there, absolutely beautiful. But if it does reapproach that number, I probably wouldn't take that same scalp again. I just look at the second pass as significantly lower probability. On the other side, if you do see Bitcoin play out to the south side, the average return for losing Thursdays would put Bitcoin somewhere around 88,800 or 88,850. So if you do see Bitcoin dump down there intraday, which we'll go over a little bit later as why there is some good reason to believe that that could happen, I would be looking for a bounce on the first pass. Again, first pass, bounce, scalpable bounce probably. Second pass, not, or a very, very lower probability. So yeah, if you do see that happen, you'll get that same sort of trade. We saw the same thing happen yesterday, by the way, although I didn't necessarily bring it up on yesterday's video. We did see both ends more or less tested there. So, if you are using this indicator, it's just been a fucking workhorse of a scalper, and I absolutely fucking love it. This one in price action pivots, if you're looking for intra-bar quick scalps, which I know a lot of people like trading like that, and I've definitely liked trading like that in the past, and I actually do sometimes take these as well if I'm awake, because you do have to trade these manually right now. They can be really, 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 really profitable if you are consistent with them over time. They're not going to be home run trades. They're going to be intra-bar scalps, hidden little singles here and there. And over time, yeah, they do add up quite a fair bit. Anyways, moving on from there, let's go over why I think that this rally, whatever rally we're getting right now, is kind of a bittersweet rally. And it is based off of the 2-week setup right here. It's the same setup that we've seen on the 12-hour, the daily, the 2-day, the 3-day, the 5-day, the 8-day, the 10-day, and even the weekly as well, actually. And it is the interplay between the red 4 EMA and the yellow 21 EMA. Whenever we see these cross to the downside, we get a minimum correction to that green moving average every fucking time in Bitcoin's history, actually. Every fucking time. Happened over here, happened over there, happened over there, over there, over there. You've seen it not that many times, but yeah, whenever it does happen, it's pretty strong signal. And actually, anytime that it has happened, you've been in the market for a pretty nasty correction to follow. That typically takes a long time as well. So, add this to the, pile of heap of bearish things that are starting to emerge. But yeah, sometimes they play out relatively soon. Like you see this one right here, crosses, and a couple bars later, which is actually a month later, to be fair, it's 4 weeks. You do see that target hit. Over here, this one takes a lot longer. This one takes like almost half a year. Let's see. Yeah, 140 to 150 days. But it does get hit, and Bitcoin doesn't get any major rallies after that. I mean, you did get this rally right here, but no major like high rallies. Coronavirus over here, same thing. This one pretty damn instant. This one also instant as well. And then in 2021, 2022, yeah, this one also took many months to play out. But yeah, it did get there. So in this case here, this is why I say that this current rally is likely bittersweet. I do expect that green 55 EMA will get hit either on this period or the period that follows. Or sorry, actually, I shouldn't say that, because I don't know when it's going to happen. I just know that it's extremely high probability to happen based off of the December statistics right here. Now, kind of, combining different things from different angles. So now we go into fucking like crazy, like Einstein. Okay, I'm not going to compare myself to Einstein, but like crazy fucking scientist, crazy hair mode. I look at this and I say, okay, the low of the month is usually relatively early within the month. For December, whoops, I'm on the wrong one. Yeah, December monthly lows, within the first week or two. And if we go back to this over here, are we going to test back down to that green 55 EMA and also play out what would be more or less the average open to low from this data right here, which puts us pretty much exactly around those numbers? I mean, hopefully that is the case, because the sooner that gets taken care of, the sooner that there is a real potential for, a runaway rally that actually could be a reversal. But until that happens, I would treat any rally that does not test this green 55 EMA first as a rally that is destined to fail. Might take many months, might just take 1 month, which is still kind of a long time, but I'd be looking at it as very, 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 very likely to get down around there. So just be aware of this, because this setup in particular has kept us very honest on this channel for the past couple months, since I really started to focus on it, because we got so many of these setups firing off. Again, it started with the 12-hour, then it worked all the way up through multiple different time frames, now to the 2-week time frame, and this is what has kept us in kind of corrective mode on this channel basically since it was actually starting to fire off like a couple of weeks before the high was put in. So that that new all-time high did kind of throw me off personally, but they all played out at some point, which is kind of my point right here. Don't discount it until proven otherwise. So yeah, there's that. And then of course, when we go into the lower term timeframes, there are several technical signals that could be building up as of right now. They're not actually in there as of this exact moment, but they are potential. There is potential for hidden bearish divergence here. It's not confirmed just yet, but it is potential. It would require Bitcoin to really come back down and close a 6-hour below about 90,200. Maybe the 4-hour has it in. Actually, probably not. No, it does not. All right, these ones actually don't have it right now. So perhaps this one could run away a little bit more from here. If it does, I guess your next technical target is going to be somewhere around like 94.5 to 95,000 bucks. not bad. But this is also within the context of that HPDR target being hit already. You know, if you're looking at this over here, we're saying, hey, once volatility starts to contract, which was this bar here coming into, what was it, Sunday? Yeah, Sunday's closure, have to be looking for a return to the median on the HPDR. That happened actually as of last night, as this one did adjust down and even exceeded it a little bit. So I would look at this as target hit. That's played out. It doesn't imply anything else as of right now. You know, we just wait for the next setup, basically. And actually, seeing as we don't have any hidden bearish divergence right now, perhaps this rally could run away a little bit more. But again, to me, this is just bittersweet, because at some point, very likely to come back down here. You know, I think as a maximum target for this rally, it would be somewhere around that red moving average, which is about $97,000, a little bit above 97, because, you know, typically we do get reconnects with that major moving average each and every closure, or if it doesn't happen, you know, maybe one more closure at most. So whether it's this bar or the next one, which it will come down on the next one, you know, probably going to reconnect with that. So I guess that would be kind of like, again, top of the rally sort of target. Do we see stochastic momentum starting to turn down? Actually, no. I mean, it's in some pretty critical territories right here. So I feel kind of remiss to say, yeah, bullish, but at the same time, it's not turning down yet. And the current pivot is 89,100. 12-hour time frame is going to continue up here as well. Actually, even now that I recognize it, breaking this long-term regression, it looks like. So yeah, I guess this does have potential to run all the way up to maybe even 97. But like I said, I personally would be very, very cautious and skeptical on this rally. I think it's highly likely to retest somewhere around the current lows. And then after it retests around the lows, then whatever rally emerges from there, that one does, you know, theoretically could be a reversal. But yeah, this time frame, 12-hour time frame, pivoted at 86,700, and daily time frame is going to still be, you know, massive up right here above 83.3. Even the 2-day time frame is going to be showing some upside above 84 almost. 3-day time frames freshly up above 82,800. 5-day time frame will turn up even above 87,650. So I don't know, maybe it does rally from here and then it comes back down later. I mean, if it comes back down later, that's going to look pretty fucking ugly. Look, in my opinion, if you want this market cycle to continue on, the most logical way for this to happen would be to come down first and then rally. Fulfill that target, then rally. If that were to happen, that gets rid of all of that, you know, all of that bullshit where, you know, this setup over here is likely to play out. Until that happens, I have to just be looking at whatever rally we get, even if it gets back up to like $100,000, is likely to fail at some point. Keep in mind, Bitcoin's trends don't even really reverse here until you're back above the November 10th high, which was 107,450. That's the price action pivot right here. And again, keep in mind that this price action pivot trendline extension, which is coming in and, you know, current price at around $99,000 and will work its way down. You know, that's also going to be sort of a scalpable target. We actually saw it on the lower end right here. In fact, marking the current low. So not bad on that one. But yeah, kind of my point is on this is that if you're bullish, I do think it's the most logical to expect or want, not necessarily expect, but want Bitcoin to pull back first, then rally, rather than just rally from here, because that setup will still exist. And whether it plays out, you know, in the next couple weeks or within the next 3 months, that would imply, you know, Bitcoin comes down somewhere around low to mid 80s. So I would be aware of that. Anyways, go check out some of our other tools here while they are on sale. I should give a little bit of acknowledgement to them. And you know, it's also bullish here as well, or I don't know if not necessarily say like it's uber bullish, but the quantum wave bands actually just entered into a long recently at around this price, a little bit lower than where price is currently, around 91-ish. So it's a little bit in profit right now. And well, I mean, the interesting thing about this is that while it has taken some pretty nasty losses since Bitcoin put in its highs, that uptrend generally continues. And is this going to be the next higher low in a series of higher lows on the equity curve? I mean, I don't like betting against that. So, you know, looking at this, I mean, is this trade right here going to be a major win? I mean, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I still would be looking at this as sort of a bottoming area, because ultimately I do expect that equity curve to continue its current trend. And so, you know, whether it takes some small losses right here or whether it just has another big gainer, I don't fucking know, but you know, these are some opportunities, at least as this one is acknowledging. This one actually took a nice trade right here. I mean, small win right here, but at least it's a win. Most importantly, it's just not fucking getting you killed on the downside. See, when you're trading a strategy like this, it's all about the long term. You are going to take some losses. You know, look at this segment right here from when was this? This was in 2024 in summer when Bitcoin was playing at that major correction from last year. You know, this one had some pretty nasty losses during that time, but ultimately it was a higher low and marched its way upwards and onwards. So it's always with any sort of a strategy, especially something like this, which has a very, you know, mathematically based edge, it's just time using the strategy that is going to produce good results. When you have a good edge, when you have a good setup, it's just playing that over and over and over and over and over again, and then the gains do come. You know, same thing with this baby over here. Or I guess this isn't really, like, in my opinion, a major setup, but you could build something around this. To be fair, you know, it could give the bias for a corrective move, which means, hey, look for the next, you know, lower high, but this, I should acknowledge, is actually using Quant Prime service, not to be confused with quantum wave bands. This one's a lot more advanced. It requires you to actually, you know, input it and format it, but you can basically, you know, create any sort of a setup to your heart's content using these tools. So like, you know, like I like to say, quantum wave bands, better for newer people. It gives you an idea of what a working strategy looks like. If you're more advanced, there's no dishonor in using it, as well as, like, kind of, you know, just an alert to, hey, you know, we probably have a higher probability trade over here. And Quant Prime is going to be a lot more for advanced people. You know, those are for the people who already have ideas for trading strategies, who just need help back testing them to expedite that, and then also automating their execution, because you can do that as well with that service. And you can actually automate with the quantum wave bands too. It's a lot more limited, a lot more black box. Anyways, other than that, I've already shown you the LTI over here. The LTI, at least for my dip buying program, is going to fire off a long-term value signal. So again, if you're holding for, you know, at least 5 years, preferably like myself, about 10 years, you know, I have bought here. You know, I do like that, and I'll continue to play this one out. And we shall reconvene tomorrow for another live stream. And then, holy shit, this video is 26 minutes long. Holy fuck. I want to do some traditional markets. Let's go over some traditional markets really, really quickly here. Why not? All right. It's like everyone's getting ready for Thanksgiving. Crown, fucking hour-long video. I did acknowledge yesterday that SPY and NASDAQ have done something very significant here. It has reclaimed last Thursday's high. That to me is a big deal. While I don't necessarily think it's going to break out exactly from here, this is now a broadening wedge, and the bias is on an upside breakout, you know, basically targeting the prior all-time high. NASDAQ's a little bit more technical. Yeah, this one's actually already kind of broken that broadening wedge. Might pull back in the short term to 25,150, but overall, you know, this is looking to me like it does want to try back towards 26,000 bucks, you know, especially with not monthly, but daily MACD switching back, or very likely back up, you know, within the next day or two. So yeah, short term might be a pullback, but as long as you're above about 25,100, I'd be looking at that as likely continuation and likely overall good, as traditional markets continue to keep it up and to the right. Beautiful, fucking beautiful. Anyways, that's going to do it for me today. As always, I want to wish everyone the best of the best. Take care. Much love. Happy Thanksgiving. And yes, we will. Oh my God, I always forget to talk about this. Black Friday sale will go on until next week, until the end of next week, because it is Cyber Monday as well, which I always forget. All right. With that said, take care. Much love, and see you hopefully tomorrow for another more smooth live stream.